Welcome back everyone, and here we are again. But what do we have on the workbench today? Well, firstly, we have a brand new Cyma M14. So this has come straight from the shop to me, from its owner. So no messing around there, we want upgrades straight away. So we're going to do a full build on that. But the main reason that I thought I would turn the camera on for this one is because of this little gem. This is the new Perun Mosfet for the M14. So I thought I'd share it with you as I've got the opportunity to fit one of these. This will be the first time I've seen one of these. It will be the first time I've fitted one of these. So we'll see how it goes. But just to have a little look inside the box, here we go. As we'd expect, we have a programmer card. So that there, at just a first glance, looks like it's very similar to some of the stuff that I've looked at and we've seen in my previous videos on the V2s and V3s. So all good there, we kind of know what to expect. Little patch, very nice, and the MOSFET itself. So let's open that quickly now, shall we? And just have a quick look together. And then what I'll do is obviously I'll get the build done on that and then we can have a look at how this fits. And then have a little look at it working. So what have we got in this little bag? There it is, what a little gem. Look at this one. This one comes in its casing and everything. Very smart indeed. So, what have we got here? This actually looks like it's just going to fit. So, if we imagine the rifle was around this way, for those of you that have sort of taken these apart, perhaps seen some other videos where I've done the M14s, you have the trigger mechanism, the semi-release lever and that all on this side, which I think that looks like that is going to replace literally everything on the external of the gearbox, which is quite cool. So essentially, it might just be unscrew it and screw it on, to be fair. But I've got to take everything apart anyway to build it. But just a pointer on that, note that this is purely for the Tokyo Marui and the Cyma. If you have a G&G one of these, it has a completely different trigger system, of which that, quite clearly, I can already tell is not going to work. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this apart, I'm going to do the full build on everything on here that I'm going to do, and then we'll have a little look at fitting that on the outside, because I think it's literally going to be as simple as put it on, connect the motor connections, plug a battery in, and away we go. But let's get it open and get it sorted. Okay, so just before I rip it all apart, we can see that that area there is clearly where that is going to fit on like that. So I'm going to fast forward to the bit where the rest of it, the gearbox is completely built, and then we're putting that on. So I'll see you there. Okay, so with the build done internally that I wanted to do, that's complete. So we're now going to put the new Perun, this little bit here, on the outside. Now, for as far as I can see, it all seems quite simple. We've removed all this lot that we took off earlier and all the kind of little gubbing bits that go inside it. So I don't think we're going to need any of those, but I do believe we will need some screws. 1, 2. Now, I don't think we're going to need that bottom one, because there's no screw hole to go on it, so we'll leave them, because that one, we mustn't muddle them up, because that is a different length to everything else, so that just so it doesn't interfere with the piston inside there. So I think it is quite simply, looking at this, because it looks to be quite genius, ready? I think that goes on like that. Isn't that simple? And then with a spot of luck, so that is on, and if I'm not mistaken, it has a built-in clicker. That is quite cool. And of course the semi and full auto is done by activating that lever, just like it would have been with that bit originally. So if we rotate that, look at that, it just pushes that little lever across. So next step, we have a positive wire and a negative wire. Okay, so that is it all wired on, motor attached, definitely on the correct terminals. So, shall we see what it does really? Now, with the help of, we'll start with a 7.4 volt battery. Let's see. Oh, well, it beeped and we had a green light. So, what do we think?
Oh, I have a bad feeling about this.
Right, yellow green is, I think, cycle detection. Yeah, so maybe I've got something very slightly wrong on the semi-release lever. That, of course, could very well be. Okay, so supposed cycle detection problem. So let's work it out. Now we know from when we first did the first shot, it cycled and shot fine, and it was from the second one onwards that it started flashing and erroring. By my educated guess, I would think that's going to be something where the, can you start to hear the little white bit, which that's going to be the semi-release lever. I would imagine that is getting stuck somehow. So what we need to do is have a look to see if when this is on here, if it's actually rubbing on anything, e.g. any protruding bearings or something like that. So let me just have a quick look at that, shall we? Okay, conveniently, that wasn't deliberately, but conveniently, it's left the release lever on here. Now, is that rubbing on anything? Okay, I think I have the solution to our problem. So, as we know, this was all sitting too tight. When I took it off, I couldn't see anything too obvious that looked like it was going to be stopping the semi-release lever from freely moving. So, what I have done is, using some 0.2mm shims, I've put one underneath each point where the screws go in, just to lift it up, to obviously take the pressure off that semi-release lever. And now, when I come underneath here, I don't know if we can see, can we see? Can we see it springing back? So, next test, let us put the battery back on, and hopefully we'll be able to fire more than one shot on semi before this thing decides it cannot detect the cycling. Ready? Moment of truth. So I think we're in semi-auto, yes. First shot, fine. Second shot. Okay, perfect. Now let's go for full. Beautiful. Back to semi, make sure it's not a fluke. Okay, yeah, so basically what that was then, something, maybe on this particular gearbox, I don't know, I couldn't work out the exact part, but something was clamping too tight down on that semi-release lever, causing it to be too tight. Essentially, all I've done is use the little shims here to space how tight this whole frame bit sits on the side of the gearbox, and 0.2mm shims. I did try 0.1mm at first, but on this one it needed 0.2. But nice, simple solution to that little problem, but it seems to be working fine, so let's get it back in the gun. Okay, so fully reassembled, let us plug in. We'll stick with the 7.4 for a moment. There we go. Now, so that beeped, hopefully we heard that on the camera. So that should be in semi-auto. Perfect, and then at the minute it should be in full auto. Beautiful. So if we wish to then program this, just like any other Perun you may have seen in my previous videos, or you may have a Perun yourself and you may already know. The only thing that looks slightly different on this card compared to others So that there in my right hand is a normal V2, V3. It has obviously the burst count on a separate line to what you had on the initial firing mode, because that you had safe and then shots 1 to 5 on a burst or auto, whereas that you just choose it here and choose how much you want. So that's all good. Active brake, will be turning that off. Pre-cooking, will probably use it. So we've got the 2-stage trigger. Not entirely sure how well that will work with the clicker, but who knows. Trigger sensitivity, I'm sure, again, because we've got a clicker, once we set that so it's working, it's not going to need changing. Rate of fire reduction if something was going too fast. Now, DMR mode, that could be useful for many of you. Now, we haven't gone for DMR with this. I'll show you what power that's running in a moment with the upgrades. But it could be that something like this obviously is quite a popular platform for DMRs, and it might be that you want a slight delay just so you can abide to those game rules about not spamming your trigger, because none of you can be trusted, I'm sure. Obviously, LiPo alarm, yes, we'll leave that on. DSG, it certainly isn't one of those, and we're not going to be wanting to reset everything. So we will just change a few things. Maybe I'm going to set this to a burst mode. Certainly going to turn active brake off, and I might put a little bit of pre-cooking on semi. So let's start first of all. So it's in full auto. Okay, so that's in the programming mode, and that's telling us we're on auto. I would like beeping 3 times, so that's on burst. Go down to burst count. That's on 3. Active brake. We'll turn that off. Now, pre-cocking. I don't want it on full auto actually, so we're not going to bother with that. Not going to bother with stage 2. Don't need to adjust the trigger sensitivity. Don't need to reduce the rate of fire. We don't want a DMR mode on this because it's not a DMR. We'll leave the LiPo alarm. It ain't a DSG, and let's get out of that. So, we should find that now. So we've still got semi-auto ready. But now, beautiful. Now, let me just put a little bit of pre-cocking on the semi mode. Nope. Okay, somehow I got confused, but it's still got in fine. So that's on semi. Don't need to worry about burst count on that one. It'll just sit there. Okay, so that is active brake completely off. Pre-cocking, supposedly, let's go. Just have a couple on that for now because we don't know how many we're going to need. Don't need 2-stage trigger. Don't need any of the other settings. Okay, so that has now got pre-cocking. It's pretty good, nice and snappy, despite only using a 7.4, so that's fine. Obviously the motor I put in it will help with that as well. So yeah, that is good. So that is basically a quick overview of fitting. Obviously a little bit of a challenge, but we fixed it. We're putting the shims on underneath just to raise it up slightly. It works like any other Perun pretty much, so nice and simple in all honesty there. But let's just show you what the performance of this is doing, this particular rifle, just before we round off the video. So let's get the chrono out. Okay, so here we go then, chrono test. Everything's all assembled, still on the 7.4 volt battery. Now, the rounds that we have built this to work with are these, 0.4 BLS, my favourite. Now, let's get this on the chrono. So, we'll start with semi and then we'll just have a little go on the burst. Now, this is with the hop set to lift these. So this is all good to go and battle ready. Ready? First shot. 233, so just over 1 joule. 238, 1.05. And 229. Okay, so some good results there. Let's just put a little burst through it while we've got it here. For example, let's go. Perfect. So there we are. So that is a good score. We're getting around the 1 joule mark, which we can see there. Now, obviously it's set to burst mode. With me rapid pulling the trigger, it was doing about 11 rounds a second. Slightly quicker if you just had it on full auto rather than the burst. But that there is going to lob the .4s to a phenomenal distance. Yes, we haven't gone DMR, which might be a little bit unexpected for that type of rifle. However, I feel that's preferable. That's how I would like my builds, and the guy that I've built that for agrees as well. It does mean he's got no MED, but he has got very good accuracy, the ability of having a burst or full auto, whichever he wants to do. So that is certainly how I would be setting up if it was my toy. But yeah, that is all good to go. Another success. Well done, Perun, on your new Mosfet. I've never seen one of those before. That was the first look that I've had of those. Most impressed. But other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you've learned something. Perhaps it was useful. And I will see you all in the next one.
That's all, folks.